Hello guys and welcome back to Excelsior Academy. So as part of the interview series, I have invited one of my friend who was also my colleague during IISER Pune tenure. So he has started from from a small town, and then he got to the IISER Pune. He completed his PhD and then move on to the IISc. So right now he is working as a faculty at IISc, and it will be really very great listening to him because he is kind of different person. तो अब तक हम जितने भी लोगों से मिले हैं वो कुछ मोल बायो सेल बायो या कैंसर डायबिटीज पे काम करते हैं, but he is totally different. He was like a conservationist, so he has started working on the lion and tiger, and बहुत ही इंटरेस्टिंग जॉब था इनका कि लाइक दे वर स्टडीइंग द एनिमल बिहेवियर एंड हाउ इट इज अफेक्टिंग द नियर बाय फार्मर्स. So it was very interactive and very different kind of the work he has done. So it will be very interesting to listen to him, and पता चलेगा कि सिर्फ लैब के अंदर ही आप PhD नहीं कर सकते हैं. You can go outside, go into the wildlife, and you can explore the things over there, learn new things, learn animal behavior, how it is affecting the human population which is surrounding that area, etc. So it is very interesting to listen to his side of story also. So let's listen to him, and also let's see how his journey has taken him to IISc. So right now he is at IISC Banglore, and I'm sure this person is going to inspire you a lot because he loves teaching and he has also got a very good student circle. So let's hear him out.
Okay.
Hello Abhijeet, how are you?
I'm good, Ruby. How are you?
I'm also doing good. So thank you for accepting the invitation to come here and share your research journey with our Excelsior Academy. So like basically I started this interview series so that students can listen to people and they can understand like how exactly the research was being done and what kind of preparation is needed. So here I am welcoming you. Please share your research journey also. Like first thing which we wanted to know is like what motivated you towards the research?
Okay, thanks for introducing me, Ruby. I think it's a good initiative to let the youngsters get into research for your job. Anyway, I'm happy to share my thoughts. Okay, so about my research, but before that, what I would like to first say is, before actually getting into research, I was very sure whether I would be doing research. These two things are different. Okay. So initially, I was interested in multiple subjects, and I was confused in the beginning what to choose. I somewhere wanted to do something in ecology, but at the same time, I was also interested in crystallography, by and large into biophysics, and also a little bit into neurobiology. So what I did during my bachelor's and master's, I took up different small internships, projects, summer internship, winter projects with different people in these different uncomfortable subjects, and then tried to fit myself into that, understanding whether this is suitable for me, whether I am able to understand the concept deeper. So I did a couple of summer internships in CCMB, in CDFD. I worked on a small project in biophysics, even during my masters. I was anyway, since beginning I was interested in spider taxonomy and its behavior. So that thing was anyway going on. For my master's thesis, I chose to work in Burdwa University, where I did my master's in the zoology department, and I did a very elaborate project on the crocodiles. So I eventually understood, and then after that, I went on doing some more projects. But then I eventually understood that I am more suitable in doing ecology and animal behavior and more into wildlife. So since then, I decided not to venture much away from this subject, and then I started focusing onto this. So after finishing my master's in zoology, I got an opportunity to work in a very unique project, which was about relocation of Asiatic lions from Gir National Park to somewhere else. So if you or maybe your students would know that Asiatic lions in India are present only in Gujarat. It's a very small national park of hardly 1,500 square kilometers. And the lion population, lion, lion species once upon a time was very widely distributed in northern India, in Middle East, and from Africa. There was a continuous distribution once. But then because of hunting, habitat shrinking, fragmentation, majority of the lion population remained in Africa. But a small population also got restricted into Gujarat. So the Maharaja of Junagadh over there, long time back, realized that this lion population is declining. And when the population was only 12 individuals, they stopped hunting, and they actually that whole hunting game reserve was declared as somewhere the hunting will be prohibited. So that was the first initial conservation initiative taken by that, which later got converted into national park because of this Wildlife Protection Act. And then since then, out of the 12 individuals, the lion population became to 500. So these all 500 individuals are so highly inbred. So there is a high chance, because of the genetic makeup becoming so similar, there was a very high chance that it is still the threat, but there is a very high chance that if, let's say, if there is any a small disease outbreak that happens, the whole population might get wiped out. That's one thing. Second, bigger problem is, since now it's only the 1,500 square kilometers restricted, within which the population is restricted, these lion individuals are now stepping out. So the boundaries are for us, the political boundaries for us, but not for the lions. So lions started entering into villages and going about raiding the livestock and creating a little bit of menace to the shepherds, whose livelihood is actually dependent on the livestock. So then there were a lot of previous studies which indicated that these lions needs to be controlled, and if the population keeps exploding, then there is going to be a more and more problem. So then Government of India decided, along with Wildlife Institute of India, that some of the population should be relocated somewhere else. Since the lion was quite well distributed historically, there were multiple sites where that can be reintroduced. And that's why it is the reintroduction, the Asiatic lion reintroduction project. It's not the translation, it's reintroduction. So there was one site that decided into Madhya Pradesh where they wanted to shift some individuals and let the population grow there also, so that you have two distinct populations. So even if something happens, you still have some. Okay. So I was involved in that project. My job, not the local people think about it. So I started interacting with local tribes, the local villagers, the local farmers, forest officials, forest guards, IISS officers, other researchers, other people who are the conservationists which are involved in doing that, which do not have a biology background, but then have a good field experience. So a good team, a lot of people who were involved into that. So I started interacting with them. I started conducting social service in Gujarati, which is the local language over there. Those people do not even speak Hindi. So I learned Gujarati. Hindi, it's much closer to Hindi, so I could do that. But the accent is very different. Yeah. So I took a little bit of time to understand what they really want to say. So for example, they say, so the words that has sir would have her. So there is a bit of difficulty in understanding what they are really want to say. So I had one field assistant who was an absolute local, but he knew a little bit of Hindi. I don't know how, but he knew a little bit of Hindi. So he used to assist me on the field, and he would arrange interviews for me, sometimes the food, and we had to travel long distances. So I started talking to these local shepherds. There are these Rabari pastoralists. So these rubberies are always on the move. This is a nomadic tribe which moves into the whole country along with their livestock. And the livestock is not just small. Livestock that one family holds is about 500 goats and 200 sheep and some 50 bullocks and 50 cows or something like that. Big, big herd of cattle and other livestock. They keep on moving, but then since this is the livelihood for them, if lion uh, eats one of the livestock, the livelihood is uh, reduced by some amount. So this was our initial assumption that these people are getting affected because of lions. So I started talking to them formally as well as informally. I took their interviews. I used to talk to their village head, mukhias of the villages, take their permissions, walk along with them, go to their farms, eat their food, and a lot of fun. But at the same time, do a good science. So I was very naive initially. I just did not know how much it was. So my field assistant suggested me, instead of, we have to finish this, filling this forms up. Then why don't you also talk to the farmers and the other shepherds more informal? So like, go casually talk to them just like, हाँ भाई कैसे हुआ? So I started doing that. And when I spoke to a lot of such people, I realized that the problem with the lions, although it was there, although they were facing livestock loss because of lions and other predators also, that was not a very big problem. They were like, it is dependent on it, but then instead of work on something which is more fundamental, and then I asked, what was that fundamental? So he was like, our livelihood is also dependent on the agriculture. So livestock husbandry is the secondary income for us, especially for the resident farmers. So they were like, there are a lot of pigs, a lot of nilgai, and a lot of other small herbivores which go unnoticed. They destroy the farm, and when you go and look at the farm, it really looks like there is no damage at all. But then when you harvest, what you see is the losses up to 40%, 50%, and that's big loss. So they were like, why don't you work on this problem? Because this is our major livelihood issue. So I got confused. Lion is such an important species. Indian government would be interested into conserving it. So the conservation, the idea of conservation actually stemmed up from there. But then I also realized there are many other facets to conservation. This is not just one thing. So let us not restrict to it. And I started asking myself the question whether I want to work on a particular species or whether I want to work on a particular problem. And then meanwhile, when I approached multiple researchers, because I had just finished my master's, I wanted to get a PhD. So, I was interested in, by that time I was sure that I want to get into doing research into ecology. I started talking to people so in one of such instances, I happened to go to IISER Pune. I spoke to Professor Batwe, with whom you also work with him. I did my PhD. I spoke to him very initially, and I remember that was July in Bangalore, and while returning from Bangalore, I went to meet Professor Batwe, and I spoke to him that this is not something I would like to do. Do you have any suggestions about it? So he said, I had multiple ideas in my head for which I wanted to do research. So he said, so he kind of, at that time, he spoke to me about 45 minutes, more than an hour, I think. But then that was a kind of a short interview he took. He asked me about how do you decide that you want to work on a particular problem? Did you know this particular field method? How do you estimate the population? Then he gave me a few case studies in which he wanted to take some answers out of me. And then I think he found me interesting, and he found me interested into doing a field research. So he said he had recently moved to IISER, and he said he had some position for PhD. And if you happen to clear net set, then you can directly get into it. If you don't do it, then there are other ways that IISER Pune also hosts a PhD. But that's an elaborate process. So I said, fine, let me just finish this net set. Unfortunately, I could not clear net that time. But then I approached Professor Watwe once again, asking him, look, I'm in hurry. I just don't want to have an academic break for several other reasons. So can we just do it the other way you suggested? And he said, why not? So he asked me that you write a statement of purpose, showing your research interest particularly and why you want to do that particular research and why IISER. So then I wrote that 2-page write-up and sent them. So they were like, we will invite more such applications and we will see, we'll go through the application procedure. And then in a few weeks, I got a call from him saying that this is the day of your interview, please join, come to IISER and appear for it. So that was my beginning, and that's how I actually got introduced to IISER. Now, do you want me to talk about the interview also?
No, like the questions, if you remember, you can share those questions, but you have shared, right? Like
So the interview, I'll just tell you briefly about the interview. So usually the interviews in such institutes are intimidating. Believe me, they are intimidating because I have, if you are fairly naive, if you do not know much about the research, I don't want to talk about the students who are already done BSMS from IISER or maybe from the place like IISc, where from the first year itself, the students are taught how to do research. They're already smart. I wasn't one of them. So I was very naive. I was a little scared of. I did not know who all people could be there. I went for the interview and there were some 8 people who wanted to interview me. All good, eminent ecologists who were at their, best in their own fields, including Professor Watwe. They interviewed me for about 2 hours, which kind of showed that they were interested in me. I took it as a positive sign. They kept asking me questions, statistics, the field methods, a little bit of research methodology, my research philosophy, what I want to do if I get selected into PhD and stuff like that. Many such questions, but maximum portion of it actually involved understanding whether I am capable of research at the level what IISER Pune does. So what these people wanted to know out of me is whether, given a problem, how consistent will I be, and if there are any problems, will I be able to troubleshoot on my own with a very little guidance from the peer. So these were the 2 main points they looked for. How fulfilled the requirement. They selected me through the interview, but next process was much more interesting. So next process during that recruitment time for the PhD was, if you happen to clear the interview. So first stage is your SOP. Once your SOP gets selected, you get interviewed. Once you get selected through the interview, then you have to work with the PI that you have already indicated you want to do. Like PI will decide whether you are capable of doing research at all. Then I started working with Professor Watwe, and then he gave me some of the data to analyze. He took me to the field. We worked in the field. I interacted with the farmers. He saw that I am able to work. And then we finally decided that, and he then finally decided that he would want to register the PhD. So by January 2011, I was a registered student with IISER Pune. I think now the procedure has changed a lot. They have scrapped this idea of making the student work with the PI. And then what they judge student is from, you clear the Jezebels, you have the net before that, or maybe gate for that matter. Then there are 2 rounds of interviews, and then the lab rotation, and then you finally get it.
Yes.
So that's the procedure.
Okay. Yeah. So currently you are at IISc, right? So what about that? Like, how did you approach? How was the interview at IISc?
Yes.
And then you got selected, right? So what position and how everything is at IISc? Just little bit about that also.
Okay. So after I finished my PhD in 2016, I submitted my thesis in 2016. And after that, I was looking for. So once you submit the thesis, you're allowed to go for a postdoc. So then after that, I joined one NGO, Wildlife Trust of India, with which I was working again in Central India. They wanted to do a lot of conservation studies over there, and they wanted an experienced person who had worked in Central India, which I was. So I worked with them for almost a year, and I happened to see an advertisement of something called an instructor at Institute of. So Indian Institute of Science has begun its undergraduate program since, if I'm not wrong, since 2008. 2009. I don't remember exactly, but they have started for an undergraduate program of their own, which is slightly different than the regular undergraduate programs that we usually see in universities or maybe in the IISER, like in the different IISERs. So in IISER, you have an integrated degree in which, at least when I was in IISER, this was the case. I don't know if they have changed the rules. But then IISER undergraduate programs are integrated degrees in the sense that once you get an admission into IISER, you have to stay there for the 5 years and you come out as a master's student with some subject. You are masters in biology, chemistry, physics, whatever. In IISc, the scheme is slightly different. The undergraduate program over here is called as BS and MS by Research. The degree itself is BS and MS Research. And the major aim of this course is to train the students into doing scientific research. Let it be any subject, but the major aim is to train them to do fundamental research. And so here the degree is dual. If the student wants to quit at the bachelor's level, he has to stay here for 4 years, 3 years of intense coursework and training, and 1 year of complete research project, which he or she once finishes gets the bachelor's degree. And if he or she continues for 1 more year, which is again a little bit of course and finally a project of master's. Once they finish that, they get the master's. But there is a provision of leaving the course at the 4th year and getting a master's. So I saw an advertisement on IISc webpage. There are also many emailing lists nowadays which keep posting about such job opportunities everywhere. So I got to know about this position from IISc's webpage, and I found myself eligible. So they wanted a person who has PhD in a specific subject. IISER's PhDs are not specified with the subject; they're just PhD. So I was fundamentally eligible for the post. I was interested in teaching. It's just that I was not getting any opportunity to do so. So I sent my application. I already had 6 publications. So my research profile was okay at the time for the post. And on one fine day, I just got an email back that your application has been selected. Please come forward. So when I came here, they asked me questions like about my own research, which I could answer well. But then furthermore, what they wanted to ask me is if I were to design a UG program, how I would do that. What is my teaching philosophy? If I get a UG student who wants to do a research project with me, will I be willing to do it? And most importantly, out of these all questions, they wanted me to dedicate myself rather than doing only research. So I agreed. I said, if at all I don't get to do my own own research as such. I think there are plenty of undergraduate students with me. And I have loads of ideas which these undergraduate students can execute themselves. My research ideas do not need any complicated equipment. What I want is students to go out in the field, collect some empirical data and come back with some analysis, which I can do quite a lot, and whatever little bit of equipment that I would need, I will get from the UG program.
Yes.
But then they want only teaching as such, teaching more intensely rather than doing research, but then teaching research methodologies, not just the teaching, like giving them facts and these are the blah 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 flags. Again, you mug up these things, come for the exams, and finish this thing or not. So my major job over here is to teach undergraduates, take some theory lectures, conduct laboratories majorly, which and field experiments and field tours and whatnot, in which I teach them, since my my specialization is in ecology. I teach them ecology and statistics. Yeah, that's what I do here.
Nice.
So they have given the name as instructor, but usually people do not understand what an instructor means. So instructor, I would just want to clarify over here that instructor over here sits somewhere between a postdoc and an assistant professor. The people maybe in UK they would call as a lecturer, not the assistant or associate professor. They have this post of lecturer in between. That's what I do.
Nice.
So that's my current job.
Teaching is a great profession, right?
Yes, teaching is certainly quite great. And you know what, believe me, many students who wants to get into academics after finishing their bachelor's, master's and PhD and maybe a postdoc, what many students don't consider is teaching. They just want to start their lab and start doing research. But then believe me, now by and large, more than 95% of the institutes want the professors to teach the undergraduate program. In fact, in many universities, it has become a mandate now. So I strongly suggest all the newcomers to consider teaching.
Yes.
And there are certain skills which you need teaching. It's not like if you are a good researcher, you become a good teacher. That's a very rare combination, isn't that?
Yeah.
So very rare combination. And I think you would agree with me that Professor Watkey is one of such combination, that he's a good scientist as well as a good teacher.
Certainly.
So such combinations are really very rare, and usually people assume that if a person does a very fantastic research, he will be able to teach very properly. Or if there is one fantastic teacher, he is a good researcher. But that's not the case.
True. Yeah.
So there are certain skills which people need to acquire before getting into teaching, but it is very sad that consider teaching at all, which I think people should take.
Yeah. So thank you, Abhijeet. It was really nice listening to your research journey. I'm sure students are going to consider this also as a very good option for career. So thank you for sharing with us.
No problem.